Alright everyone, we start off today talking about a good article, link in the description, not archived of course, because I actually like the Epoch Times, by Austin Alonzo, mentioning yours truly. Yes, I spoke with him on the phone. He wanted to talk about Memetic politics, and so I figured, well, you know, you're giving me a platform to talk about my views, so I'll return the favor and give a good shout out to this one. So make sure to read the article, link in the description. I'll pin it at the top as well. Interesting article. It's about the concept of memetics as applied to society, culture, and politics. So sociopolitics, basically. And what I said, and I'll reiterate it here, you should read the article anyway, though, because it goes into more depth, and there are other people that he consulted with, and their opinions, by and large, again, I agree with them. So, good article. And apparently he's a fairly fresh face. He's actually doing journalism, so that's a rare breed these days. Definitely not going to get a job with MSNBC or Fox or something like that. But the basic sum and substance of my feelings on memetics, and I did write a book called Occult Memetics. I'll link that in the description as well. You can get it on my books blog also, link in the description. The basic concept, I applied it more to the occult. So I applied it more to the spiritual side of things, although I did overlap it with politics. One of the main foundational messages of memetics, the meme being coined, of course, long ago and originally used in a genetic context, is also applicable to linguistics. And that's something that I'm obsessed with after taking linguistic anthropology, and I've spoken about this a number of times. One thing is that the left literally can't meme. And I do mean that very, very seriously. The left is incapable of making proper memes. A meme is supposed to encapsulate a meaning with as irreducible complexity as possible. So very simplistic. For instance, you would think of Smug Pepe. Smug Pepe represents smugness. Everyone understands what it means, and you don't need any further elaboration. When you therefore take Pepe and you make left-wing Pepe and you have 10 paragraphs of text next to it, nobody gives a fuck. Everybody zones out. It's sort of like, it goes back to a medieval concept. Actually, it's fascinating history, by the way. In the old days, most people couldn't even write their own name. They would sign with an X, effectively. They could not read. Most of the population was illiterate, at least in the they could speak. They could speak their language, but they couldn't really read. It was effectively something that was done by nobles, some of the royalty, and the clergy. They were the only ones that knew written language. This is why the Latin Mass was so confusing for so many people. What, therefore, if you're a merchant, did you do? Nobody can read the sign on the side of your store that says butcher, right? They don't know the word. So you simply have a picture of meat. They didn't know the word barber, so you had the little striped pole that looks like, you know, a tube of toothpaste, and maybe a picture of a wig above it or something like that. That's how people communicated. For most of human history, it was gestural, point and grunt, and pictures. It was not, written language comes much later. For most cultures in the world, I mean, we're using not that many thousands of years ago, it's hieroglyphs and petroglyphs and things like that. It's representative symbolically of a meaning. It represents a thing. So if somebody can't say the word meat, they can still understand a picture of a piece of meat, a beef joint or something like that. Human minds, therefore, over that course of time, between when we had enculturation at all and modernity, fairly recently when we developed, you know, written language and text and stuff like that, is very highly symbol-driven and image-driven. And so memes, which tend to be images, although they don't have to be, they can also be spam, you know, like the Penguin of Doom or something. Some of you are aware of the Penguin of Doom shitpost on 4chan, and, you know, holds up spoon, I'm Katie, the Penguin of Doom, hee hee hee, I'm so random. It tends to be imagery in nature. And so what I've offered as an explanation for how to make an effective meme, politically or otherwise, is that it effectively is the same as that medieval system, where you're encapsulating a meaning. You're giving somebody an understanding of a concept, and you're trying to make it as simplistic as possible. No more elaboration needs be made. Now, you can have a million derivations. Again, Pepe is probably the greatest example, the greatest political meme of all time. The original smug frog sort of thing which simply, in an irreducible sense, represents smugness. So, you know, Pepe is smug, is doing something naughty, and he's smug about the fact that he's doing that. It can be elaborated on and extrapolated upon. What you don't want to do, and what the left tends to do, is try to encapsulate a more detailed message alongside something that is irreducible. Well, it makes no sense. The two form, it's like using two different languages in the same sentence. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. People want the irreducible complexity because it conveys meaning in a very simplistic sense. Now, as applied to politics, right? The right wing tends to be more disorganized. The left wing tends to be more centrally organized. If you look at left-wing systems, they tend to be more hierarchical. They tend to be more orderly, in a sense. The problem is that with more and more order, with more and more regulation of the language, etc., which you don't see among memes from the right wing so much, you get more and more layers of possible failure, number one. And number two, of course, with that complexity comes the complexity of the images, etc., that are created. So you don't have the irreducibility. If you have a bunch of shitposters who just simply support Trump or something, they're going to crank out the memes, they're doing it for the lulz, there's no money involved or anything like that, it's a niche sort of thing, and then they put them on 4chan or Reddit or whatever, and maybe they go viral. You've got a lot more production because there's no planning process involved, there's no focus group or anything like that, and so they can get cranked out harder. Now, the advantage of that is that while each individual potential meme tends to fail, you've got a much higher volume of them. And there's always a chance, maybe it's one chance in 100,000, it doesn't have to be a high chance, that it goes viral. Whereas with the left wing, what you have is a group planning process. It's done by groups rather than individuals generally, or it's bootstrapped, parasitized, leeched off of memes that are already viral, and then they become cringe. And we can talk about these colloquial terms much more in a future video, but I'm trying to keep it a little bit more simple for this one. Alonzo's article cites me and others, and is largely factual. This is real journalism as opposed to, again, what you get from MSNBC or something. My contribution mainly dwells on irreducible complexity. That is that, again, the human mind wants that very simplistic image that conveys a meaning. And you can elaborate upon that meaning mentally. You do not need any further explanation, and the left has never fully understood this. Because when you get an organized group that often is paid for, attempting to make memes, like Elizabeth Warren's meme team, they fail in a spectacular manner. We've seen it over and over again. My theory is simply that they don't understand the irreducibility concept of memes. They're trying to inject additional meaning into something that is effectively open-ended. That is that Pepe is smug, but you can extrapolate upon that Pepe with very little modification, and there's a million derivations that you can make, and that you're never going to find a meme of that kind that is produced by an organized group. The problem is that the left, politically speaking, insofar as it's making propaganda, always relies on organization. It is inherent to the left. It's the whole goal of the left. Leftism is hierarchy and organization and bureaucracy and things like that. Whereas people that are outside of that neocon, neolib context, even if they're on the far left potentially, they're more mavericky. Well, there's no reason for them to organize. If they organize at all, it's shitposters getting together on Discord and showing each other one another's MS Paint creations or something like that. Fascinating article, fascinating subject. Please study linguistics. Please go to the link in the description again. It will be pinned at the top. I had a good conversation with Alonzo. I liked it a lot. It was great, actually. So yeah, yours truly got on the Epoch Times. Fun times ahead. That's about all. Peace out.